So here's the plan for today. We're going to, first we're gonna merge this pull request that I just got last night to see Frederick Sogard had a good idea for improving use auth, and then I'm going to spend some time. We're gonna cap it off at an hour and a half or so. We'll see how it goes. But the idea is to take the use auth library and convert it to TypeScript, so that we can, have TypeScript support, and it's going to be easier for people to add stuff to the library and use it in TypeScript projects and stuff like that. I hope. We'll see how it goes. So I'm gonna start with, I don't know if you can hear me or if the music is too loud. So I'm gonna start with merging this stuff from Frederick Sogard, because why am I merging that first? Because otherwise we're gonna get merge conflicts and it's going to be a pain in the ass to merge later. So I'm going to test if his stuff still works. So is authenticating starts with true in his case. Hey Gabriel, I'm doing pretty well. How are you? We had a leftover console log. Aha. Okay, so I'm gonna. I like the idea of. So we're not gonna merge this. We're just gonna give him feedback. Thanks for removing the console log. The console log. That's a miss on my part. And I like the idea of starting in the is authenticating state. However, we can't only disable the is authenticating state when authentication succeeds. We had that before, and it would cause a stuck state in case you were not currently logged in. Actually, let's just merge what he made and fix it back, and then so I'm going to merge this and make the above change so that we're always disabling is authenticating when the process finishes. Actually no. I'm just gonna give him feedback and see what do you think. Alright, now let's go, and I'm going to make a new branch, and that branch is going to be TypeScript support. Let's see if the people in this issue, TypeScript typings, blur. Okay, that was never resolved, so I'm just gonna make a new branch. Let's git fetch origin and see what happens. Okay, nothing on origin. Sorry. Git checkout -b, and we're going to say TypeScript. So for TypeScript, I think microbundle automatically supports TypeScript. So I'm gonna go into microbundle and see what happens, see if that works. Microbundle, let's see if it has TypeScript support. TypeScript, zero configuration TypeScript support. This, hey Lucky 24/7, this is live on, it should be live on YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, and Facebook as well. So wherever you think is easiest for you to watch, it should be live there. So TypeScript has zero support, or I mean zero config support for TypeScript, which means I should in theory be able to just start writing code, right? Let's see. Okay, TypeScript typings. Ooh, okay, so we can do that. Let's start with that. So we're gonna go into where do we define those? So we have main module unpackage, then we need to add, do we also have source? We do have source up here, index.js, and then I'm gonna say types will be dist/, types.d.ts. This types thing will give, my understanding is that this will give automatic TypeScript support to anyone who uses the library. Hey Emiliano. And then we should be able to it should just work in theory. All right, so git commit -a-m, we say add types export to micro bundle config, and give me just a second. I need to figure out what my bird is up to, because he's definitely up to no good. Huey, where are you? So I found this guy looking suspicious as hell on my keys. First rule of pet ownership: when it's suspiciously quiet, you have to go check out what's going on. So I'm gonna give him a treat in this shoe, and that should keep him busy for a little while. Seabird, it's a treat. Go destroy the shoe. Okay. Now where were we? We can go into source index.js, and I'm gonna rename it to yes, Bird OS. Birds do love keys, Candy Cane. I think they love destroying them primarily. So I'm gonna change index.js to index.ts, and we're gonna do git move source index.js to source in /index.ts. Okay, we open index.ts and we start doing things, right? So we have export Auth Provider from Auth Provider and export use Auth from use Auth. Cool. Next step, we're going to rename use Auth to TypeScript, because that will be, I think that will be the easiest, because typing React context providers is difficult. So we're gonna say use Auth is going to become source use Auth. Oh, let me zoom this in. That way you guys can actually see what I'm typing. To use auth.ts. Hey, Atwa, I don't know how to pronounce that. Atwala. Either way, hello. I hope you enjoy this stream. All right. So we are importing auth context from Auth Provider. Then we have an async function set session. I can remove this console log because we don't need it anymore. And will this just automatically... Why are Harleys always so fucking loud? Okay, so we're going to... What is the easiest... Hello, Bert. The easiest way to start adding types to this is to just go from top to bottom and do stuff. And let's also make a types... yeah, we're gonna make a simple types file, because that will make my life a little easier. Touch source types.d.ts. We're gonna open types.d.ts, and we will start with set session is going to be the what is set session? Okay, so this might be a little bit difficult. Maybe we can start with the reducer. The reducer should be easier. So auth reducer.js has a bunch of stuff. Okay, so we move source auth reducer.js to source auth reducer.ts. Yes, Harleys are built to sound loud. You're right. I love that South Park episode too. That is a really good episode. So wait, what do we say? Auth reducer.ts. And we start. We need to get auth reducer has a state, which is a type of auth state, and then import auth state from /types, and then we open types. Wait, is that how it works? Is not a module. Okay, so we don't import that. Cannot find name auth state. So now if I add interface auth state, or do we say type auth state? I don't actually know the difference, to be honest. So type auth state, and now this works, and then we have the auth action. Cool. And we can then define type auth action. Does anyone actually know the difference between an interface and a type in TypeScript? I'm always very confused about those. And so we have type auth state. What are our states? So each action has a type that can be either, let's see, it can be login, logout, stop authenticating, login, logout, stop authenticating, and start authenticating. I guess those two should be inverted. And then it can also be login, logout, stop authenticating, start authenticating, and it can be an error type, right? So those are the different types of auth actions that we've got. And then each action can have an auth result or an auth user. So we say auth result, which is, let's say, an any for now, because I don't know if then we can have a user, which is also an any. I'm going to fix these any's so that we can use the actual better typings. I think they come from auth0. Let's see, does auth0 have typings? Auth0 TypeScript, does that exist? TypeScript practical introduction, auth0 types, perfect. So we have types for auth0.js. So we can say yarn add --dev at types auth0 -js, right? That should work. Hello, birdie. And we go into types auth0.js. Yeah, basically that's what I'm doing. I'm adding the type definitions for auth0 as what are they called, as a dev dependency for my entire library, so that it doesn't get bundled when you're compiling for production, but it does get bundled when you're developing on the actual library, because that makes life a little easier. So I'm gonna look at index.dts and let's see if auth result and stuff. Auth result, there we go. It is an auth0 decoded hash, right? Auth0 decoded hash, and then is user, auth0 user, so it should be an auth0 user provider. Auth0 user profile, yes. Okay, see, this is how we can make our code base easier to use. We're adding type definitions. What else does the auth reducer need? So we get auth result and blah. Then our state, what does our state always have? Let's see, where is the auth reducer defined? Auth provider, auth reducer. We always have a user, then we have an expires at, is authenticating, and so on. So let's go into types, and we say we have a user that is an auth0 user profile, and we always have a expires at, which is either a null or expires at what? Come on, where do we define expires at? In use auth. Expires at, so it's either a date. Any videos and examples on P5.js? sounds log error. So Andrew, I haven't actually done P5JS before, so I know it's a really cool library, I just haven't used it before. Okay, where are we defining expires at? That's what I want to know. Oh, it would be in the reducer. Expires at is a I'm trying to figure out, it's a integer. So it's not a date directly, it's an integer. That seems silly. So it's an integer or null. And what else do we have? Then we have Auth Provider, let's see. We also have is authenticating, which is a boolean. Is authenticating, which is a boolean. What else does the auth reducer have? It's defining user expires at auth result, user expires at auth result is authenticating, and we also have error type and error. Alright, so we can have an error type, which is a question mark, and I think that's a string, and we can have an error that is optional, which is a, what do errors get? Dispatch, okay, type error. Error will be just an error. How do we type an error? Like a JavaScript error? Error? No. TypeScript, JavaScript, exception. Let's see what those look like. Exception handling, TypeScript deep dive. Blah. I'm not pronouncing things very well today. So error subtypes, new error, error reference error, syntax error. Okay, I think it can be just an error like that. Does that work? It doesn't complain. Cool. Okay, so that's the property error type. Error and error type does not exist on auth action, so let's add it. Error type can be a string, and error is also optional, and it can be an error. Error. Okay. Come on, I know I just added it. Stop complaining. Auth reducer TS. Voila. Okay, so now all of auth reducer is basically it's basically done. Oh, it also always returns. So we're gonna say that it always returns auth state, because that will make our code base a little bit clearer. Blah. Cool. So we've got typing for the auth reducer, and I think it doesn't seem like VS Code is not picking up on anything being wrong or complainy, so that should be fine. So we say git status, git add source, git add source types, and source auth reducer dot come on, git.ts, git status, git commit minus, and git add package JSON, git commit minus m, type definitions for auth reducer, get octave bands. What is octave bands in P5JS, Andrew? What's up, bird? Did you already eat the Nutriberry? Did I not make it hard enough? There's more in here, you dumbass. Kiwi he's a smart bird, but sometimes he's real dumb. Okay, so we've got the... Hey. What was that? Why you just throw things away? Okay. We've got the auth reducer all typed. Oh, auth result. Auth result, it does not belong to auth state. So let's add that to the state. User cannot find name auth user profile. Integer, so it's a number. Great, now it's suddenly complaining. Let's see. Is authenticating user. Auth result. What is the auth result a type of? I think it would be auth0 decoded hash, but it's saying that we can't. Alright, so what if I import at types slash auth0.js? Will that make it work? Okay, let's see, definitely typed. Class management, web auth. Let's see, authentication. Passwordless authentication. So I'm not really sure. Cool. Web auth. Auth0 decoded hash. Access token, ID token, okay. Auth0 delegation token, change password options. Why is this not complaining? Cannot find name auth0 user profile. Why not? Why isn't it importing? What if we say auth0 user profile and auth0 decoded hash from blah? Okay, so user profile it gets, decoded hash. Now it does. Okay. Cannot import type declaration files. Consider importing auth0.js instead of. Okay. So what if we do that? Does that work? That seems to work. Okay. Cool. So we now have those things imported, right? And that means the auth reducer, no. Cannot find name auth state. Why is it complaining that it cannot find these things? What if we just rename this to types.ts? So let's do move source types.ts to source types.ts. Types.ts like that, and then we go into auth reducer and we import auth state and auth action from /types. Will that make it happy? Then we have to actually export them. Export type auth state, export type auth action. Okay, now it's actually happy. Get status, get at source types and .ts and source auth reducer.ts, get log, get status, get commit -m, no more squiggly lines. Okay, that should work. Type is missing the following properties from type auth user profile. Okay, so we're going to change that. So in types, we're going to say that the user can be either an auth0 user profile, or it can be just an empty object, because by default it's an empty object. Get status, get add source auth reducer, get commit -amend. So we're going to just override those squiggly lines, that squiggly lines commit, and now we can move to use auth ts, and we can start here. So we're gonna go at the very bottom, and the use auth function will this will be a function that returns what? The use auth interface, right? Would you ever buy Candy Cane asks if I would ever buy an electrical motorcycle. I don't know, I really think the vroom sound is a big part of owning a motorcycle. I don't want my bike to be quite I don't want my bike to be that loud, but I do want my bike to make noise and be fun to ride. And I think electrical makes it just not that. Although I guess in the future we're gonna have to get used to enjoying the whine of electrical engines. So use auth is a, let's see, how do we type this? What if we say const use auth, or it's a function that doesn't take any arguments. Candy cane, why are electrical engines worse for the environment? So it's, wow. Can you guys hear the jet engines? Those are jets. So we're going to say use auth interface hook, use auth hook. So we take use auth hook and we import use auth, let's call it an interface, use auth interface from /types, use auth interface, we add it here, I think that should work. Then we go into types.ts and we say export interface use auth interface, which is a function that returns, is that how we define a function interface? Let's see, TypeScript function interface. I always forget how to do that. Interface in TypeScript can be used to define a type and also to implement it in the class. The following interface blah TypeScript function interface. And interface equals a, okay, cool. So auth the interface ensures that all callers of functions that implement the interface supply the required arguments, data, and to upper. Because TypeScript understands that JavaScript doesn't mind if you pass arguments that aren't used. Why is this okay? So I formatter data string to upper bool, so it needs to be a function. Okay, so we say use auth interface is a function that gets nothing and returns. I'm going to copy it from here. Where are we? Use auth, and we are returning kiwi. So it's always going to return all of this stuff, right? So is authenticating is a boolean. Then we have is authenticated, which is also a boolean. Then we have the user, which is auth0 user profile. Come on, user profile, or an empty object. Then we have the user ID, which is a string or null. Then we have the auth result, which is the auth0 decoded hash. Then we have login, which is an auth action, and we have logout, which is also, wait, is it a log? Is it an action? It's not actually an action, is it? It's a function. So it's a function that, yes. So login, which is a function that returns nothing. Logout, which is also a function that returns nothing, and handle authentication, which is a function okay, Andrew, I don't know what the AV player is, and I think I'm really not that great at the whole type is not assignable to type use auth interface. Okay. So handle authentication, which is a method that accepts a post login route, potentially, Yes, and returns nothing. So this is a function that accepts post login route optionally as a string and returns nada. Cool. Okay, now let's see if this is happy. Use auth in const use type blah. So type method 2 is authenticating, blah is not assignable to type. Property null is missing in type. What property null? I don't know, Andrea. I don't know why P5JS users don't make videos on that stuff. Export type use auth interface equals a method that does that. Will this make it happy? Alias type user interface is a method that does things, and here it's saying that type of nothing to is authenticating is authenticated, and instead where property null is missing in type is authenticating any whoa. Okay, so this is not a very helpful this is not a very helpful message. Oh, what if we actually fix the syntax here? Come on. Why is this wrong? Handle authentication should be a method. Oh. Post login route question mark string, like that. Okay, now it's happy. Okay, this part is still not happy. Okay, let's try simplifying it. We're going to just return is authenticating here, like that, and I'm going to comment out everything else. So now we have a function that doesn't take an argument and just returns an is authenticating boolean. Wow. Robin, type foo type return type of foo, where foo is the function and now foo type is the type. Yes, I agree, I think. Okay, so it works. This works. You const use auth interface. What if we just call it what if we actually call it interface use auth, and we do it like that? Will that still work? Okay, so this is happy. And is this still happy? Use auth is a use auth interface blah. Okay, so that's happy. Now let's do is authenticated. It's saying now that is authenticating. Okay. So this should be property is authenticated, which is, why is it a function to boolean? Is authenticated. Oh, because it is in fact a function to boolean. So that's what I did wrong here. It's a method that returns a boolean. So that's gonna work. Now we take user and state user, and we say the user is an auth0 user profile. Okay, is this still happy? Still happy, perfect. Andrew, yes, you can definitely make a video on P5JS sound and get octave bands and all of that stuff. I think that would be really cool and useful to a lot of people. Okay, so user ID we said is a string or null. So we say a string or null. Is this still happy? Perfect, still happy. And we take auth result, which we know is a auth0 decoded hash. Auth0 decoded hash. This saved. Are there any squiggly lines in use auth? No squiggly lines. Perfect. Then we take the login method. So this is kind of annoying because if anyone out there knows a better way to debug TypeScript types, please let me know, because I don't. Okay, so now it's complaining. It's saying that is not assignable to type u. So login 0 nothing to void, login nothing to void is not assignable to type log what? Aha, nothing to null. Oh, okay, because it's not returning null, it's returning void. Now it's gonna be happy. So that was the problem. Cool. So yeah, if anyone knows a quicker way to debug stuff like this, I would be extremely happy, because I don't. And it's tedious when something like this happens. Okay, so now we take handle authentication. That's going to be the last one. Perp void. Cool. So we've got awesome. Use auth now has a basic type. Wonderful. Now, what is the next thing we gotta type? So this should just work. Where it's saying is authenticated returns a boolean. What are the things that return an any? I don't want any any's in my code base, because I don't like, I think those are terrible. So aha, we say parameter error implicitly has an any type, but a better type may be inferred from usage. So we say that this is an error, and auth result is an auth0 decoded hash, I believe. Yes, or actually, can we say that this is a, let's see if that will work. So we have, now let's do just auth0 decoded hash. So that works, and then we call handle auth result, which takes an error that is an any. Okay, so let's go into handle auth result and type this thing a little better. We have an error method, then we have auth0, type use auth interface, return type, type of use auth, but I don't, Robin, I'm not sure what we would achieve with that. So yes, we can try it, but I don't know, I don't understand the point. Okay, so error is an error. Handle auth result also gets the dispatch function. What are we calling this? Okay, so handle auth result gets the auth result as an auth0 decoded hash. We're going to put that here. And cannot find name auth result. Did you mean xpath? What? No, I didn't mean xpath result. What is wrong with you, VS Code? I meant what I said. Okay. Let's do it like this then. So we say error is an error. Auth result is a auth0 decoded hash. And I think that'll make it happier. So we're gonna have to say handle auth result. Actually, let's just define it as an interface. Handle auth result is going to be a handle auth result interface. So use auth interface equals the return type of use auth. That sounds useful. I'm not sure. So Robin, if we make it so that TypeScript infers everything for us, then what's the point of even defining types in the first place? Because in what I think is at least partially the point of having of defining these interfaces and stuff is to make it easier for other people to know what to expect. And if we just make everything infer from itself, then that's not very helpful, is it? Our handle auth result interface. So we go export interface, handle auth result interface, which, is there a difference between internal types and external types? That would be cool. So we're gonna have, we take an error, that is an error. Then we take, we can import that stuff from here. We take auth result. Okay, let's do it this way. So we have dispatch, which is a function that takes a, yes, so it's a function that takes a auth action. Yeah, it takes an auth action and returns void. Then we have a, what else did we say? We have auth result, which is an auth0 decoded hash, like that. What's it complaining about here? Identifier expected, whatever. And that returns void, right? No? What are you complaining about? Oh, so it needs to be with commas? No? Export interface blah. I don't know what the problem is. Just like that, auth action to void. Come on. Auth action any. No, it's not an any. It's defined right up here. Property void. Okay, we're gonna deal with that in a little bit. So we have the auth result, and then we take auth0. What is auth0? Auth0 comes from context, and auth0 is this entire Okay, Robin, we're gonna try that. So, but first let's figure out the handle auth result function. Authentication. Build authorize. Which one is actually? Wait. So when we create Auth Provider, auth0 is auth0 web auth. Okay. So we're gonna use web auth. Perfect. So that is our auth0 thingy. Auth reducer, use auth types. We take auth0, which is a web auth for things, and we import web auth from auth0.js. So candy cane, it's actually kind of tricky. TypeScript doesn't necessarily resolve any problems that JavaScript developers had, as long as we're talking about JavaScript developers of small things. But as soon as you the problem is when you're working with large code bases, that's when TypeScript suddenly becomes super useful, especially when you have multiple people working on the same code base. It becomes extremely handy if you can have type definitions, so that it just makes it easier for new people to come into your code base and see, oh, this is what I can expect, this is what I can't expect, and it solves a lot of bugs that you would otherwise have in production, like things being undefined or properties not being there that you expected to be there and stuff like that. Now let's see. Handle auth result. Property dispatch does not exist. So let's try to add the property dispatch again. Okay, so handle auth result async. Does this return anything? It does. It returns a boolean. So we're gonna say it returns a boolean, and let's add the dispatch thing as a dispatch, which is an auth action returning void. Is that what the dispatch is? New. How do we get dispatch? Dispatch, index.ts, auth reducer, auth provider, dispatch. Hey Architect Dev, Robin, I appreciate the suggestion of helping out with moderating the stream. I like to limit moderation to people who are being egregious about what's it called? Like if they're being super, not just like Andrew is being a little bit annoying, but there are people sometimes who just like start doing SJW things or trolling in general, and that's not okay. I like to limit moderation to those. Andrew is just a misguided soul trying to get help, so it happens, you know. I don't wanna take measures against just that. So let's see, where was I? Use auth, handle auth result. This what? Type error dispatch blah promise boolean. Oh yeah, because it returns a promise boolean. Types.ts promise. So Andrew, I would really recommend that you go to let's see, use reducer type. I'm sure that's a thing that exists. Typing a use reducer react hook in TypeScript. Perfect. Do we need a reducer? The type of use reducer. What is typing state, typing actions? Yes, we type the actions. How do we type the dispatch? Using the hook. Dispatch, come on, how do I type the dispatch? Dispatch. Okay, dispatch is a reducer action. Reducer action are what? Let's take a look at use reducers type signature. Simplify the code slightly by taking initializer out of the picture. A well-typed function signature is often enough to understand. So type reducer pref state action blah. Here we get dispatch reducer action. Let's just call it dispatch, and we can say export type auth dispatch. Auth dispatch. Let's do that. Auth dispatch, which is a method that takes an auth action and returns literally nothing, does it? Void. Okay. Auth parameter has a name but no type. Did you mean so auth action is an object, but it doesn't really have a type. Architect Dev, I am currently in the US. Right, so that's the problem. Does it need? Can I do that? Oh, that does work. Perfect. So that's our handle auth result interface. Use auth. Perfect. That is not typed. We have the dispatch function that gets dispatch the things. Then auth result is happy with us, and then we can have a set session. Do we need to dispatch any auth result any? And here we actually have. Why does it still say auth result any when it is clearly very well typed? Hi Bert. handle auth result interface. Okay, what if we do it this way instead? Export type is a function that takes this stuff and it returns a promise of a boolean like that. Let's see if that makes use auth happier. Now if I go to handle auth result interface, perfect. It still says dispatch is a type of any. I don't like that. Learning Ruby fast, it's a weird language. Yes, so one of the things with Ruby is that it's a very I don't know how to fix this. Robin, you seem to know a lot about TypeScript. Do you know why I'm still getting, even though I'm defining the interface and I'm defining the type of the whole function, why is it still telling me that each individual element in the function is a type of any? I don't like that. So error any error string. Candy Cane, I don't actually know. I learned Ruby primarily from working with Rails, so I still don't really know the difference between Rails and Ruby. I kind of just use both together. But it's a pretty easy language to pick up once you just get started and hack around a couple of code bases. I actually learned with a RSpec in Action book or something like that. Okay, so let's see, does this... Everything is an any. Why is everything an any? I don't understand. Okay. Okay, so let's try if reopening the project will help. If that doesn't help, I'm gonna go on the wild internet and ask for help. So let's see. Handle auth result interface, that is defined. And come on, TypeScript. Do the thing. Loading. Still an any. Now I don't know if I actually caught it. Let's see if I did. Take a 5-minute break so that I can open Twitter. Go on Twitter. Paste. Come on, I said paste. Okay. Anyone know why VS Code is still showing function args as any even though the function is well typed? Swix maybe? The incomplete guide to JavaScript book. Okay, cool. So I asked the question. Now let's go back to defining the all of the TypeScript stuff. Let's type the set session function because I think that's useful. So we're going to say the set session function is set session interface. Oh, I've never heard Cole Slizzy. I've never heard of the Odin project, to be honest. I'm obviously partial to using my React for Data Visualization course to start learning React, but honestly, React docs are really good these days. So if you just start with the React documentation and read it as a course from start to finish, you will have a great time. You can also do Egghead videos. I've heard are really good. Other than that, I think most people learn React by inference. Just start a project and hack around. Yeah, I don't really have any way better recommendations right now because it's been a while since I started learning React from scratch, so it's hard for me to really know. Okay, set session interface. Let's define that one. Auth reducer, index ts, types ts, export type set session interface, which is also a function that does what? So the function gets a dispatch, which is auth dispatch. Come on, dispatch, auth dispatch, and it gets a auth0, which is a web auth class, and it gets an auth result, right? Yes, auth result, which is an auth0 decoded hash. Cool sleazy, yes. I started with documentation because that was way back when in 2015, and there was literally nothing other than documentation. And back then the documentation was also pretty bad, so I just kind of hacked around and played with it until I figured out how to use it. And you can buy my course, React for dataviz.com. So the course is a little bit geared towards data visualization, but it also teaches you a lot of the basics of React and how things fit together and how to think about it. And I'm mostly using what's it called? I'm mostly using data visualization as a hook to make it more interesting, so that you're not just building like you know, so that you're not just building like boring to-do apps and stuff like that. So this function returns a promise void, which is kind of a weird thing to return from a function, isn't it? Like that. So we have value of type promise constructor is not callable. Did you mean to include new? What? No, I'm defining a type. No? What? I don't understand what this is complaining about. Oh. What? That is so weird. Okay. Okay, so we have set session interface. What are you complaining about? The return type of an async function or method must be the global promise t type. Okay, promise t. Come on, I'm typing t. Will that make you happy? T. Cannot find name t. Promise no. Will you be happy now? The return type must be the global promise. Oh, I see what's going on. Promise void. Come on, promise void. I'm doing this in the wrong place. It needs to be like this. Async functions set session. Actually, you know what? Let's just say const set session interface equals async, and I'm just gonna use a fat arrow function because that will make my life easier. There we go. You have to do this type input. Robin, for which issue exactly do you mean? Because the point is that the variable isn't actually named. I'm just using like objects. So I'm using the trick of having object destructuring and stuff like that instead of actual arguments. Yeah, so error. Yeah. Okay, I can do that. So let's do this here. This is an error. A user is a... Where do we get? A user will be an auth0 user profile, I believe. The any issue, yeah. Okay, let's try that. So this is saying any. So if I go into into types, and we take this and we do it like that. So error dispatch, yeah, Robin, let's see if this works. If that works, then so we have handle auth result interface, error auth dispatch, web auth. So I did the thing that Robin said to resolve the any issue. And now, just to be sure, I'm also going to restart VS Code to see if it reloads the thing. Can we stop trying to get in the drawers? And we will see if this if what we just did updates the tooltips. Loading. Nope, it still says any. Okay, Andrew, you are starting to be really tedious, so please stop, because otherwise I might have to am I looking at the wrong function? Types.ts. I am looking at the wrong function, god damn it. Okay, let's look at handle result then. Yay! Okay, thanks Robin, you are amazing. That worked. And it looks like my thing is actually returning a promise. So the promise for... Yes, Robin, you are a godsend. Let's do that here as well. Dispatch, web auth decoded hash, like that. And now it's going to update here as well, won't it? It does. Awesome. Now what's this complaining about? Error and error are incompatible. What? Property message is missing in type auth0 error, but required in type... Okay, let's call this an auth0 error then. Okay, so this is now an auth0 error, which we need to import from here. Auth0 error. Okay, Andrew, you are starting to get on my nerves, so I'm gonna let's block you for a little bit. Okay, so let's see. Auth0 error, and now this should complain that error is not an auth0 error. So I'm gonna go up here and we're gonna add here to error. It can also be an auth0 error, like that. And VS Code was nice enough to automatically add it to our imports. Now let's see, auth0 error. Now our set session interface needs to define that we are actually we're not returning void, we might return an auth0 user. Auth0 user profile, right? Use auth, yes. Cool, so this is happy now. We get an auth0 user profile and we return it from the function. Resolve reject should just work. Auth0 client user info gets the access token, the error. We dispatch if there's an error and then reject our promise. And then if there isn't an error, we dispatch a login type action with an auth result in the user, and then resolve the promise with that auth0 user profile thing. Let's see, we get this stuff, and now here this should just work. Amazing. All right, so all of this now works, I think. Dispatch is still an any because our use context is not defined. All right, hello bird, what are you doing? Now let's see, auth context is an any, so that means we got one or two more things to add types for. Get status, we have use auth ts, types dts, types ts, get add dot, get commit -a -m. We have now typed the use auth hook. Typing for use auth hook. Awesome. git push origin TypeScript, just in case my computer crashes or catches fire or whatever happens. We don't want hi Bert. We don't want, you know, all the work to vanish. So that leaves our last thing that we need to the last thing we gotta type is the auth provider. So we're gonna say git move source auth provider JS to source auth provider.ts. Why are there Kiwi? What are you eating? Can you not destroy my stuff, please? Thank you. Where are you? Seriously, that bird. Okay, now let's open the auth provider TS. Auth provider TS. And React is declared but never used. Is that true? No, of course it's used. Okay, this is going to be a fun one now, because I've never actually, to be perfectly honest, I have literally never in my life typed a React component. So we will see how this goes. Okay, so we start with the auth provider, which should be an auth provider interface, right? Auth provider interface. And we're going to import that. Import auth provider interface from /types. Okay, and let's go define that interface. Index ts, no types ts, and we say export type auth provider interface, which is a function. Do I want tsx? Okay, we can do that. So I'm gonna close that. Git move source auth provider ts to source auth provider.tsx. Auth provider tsx. We open that. Oh, and now React is used, and this is not complaining as much. Robin, you were right. Interesting. Huh. Prop types does not exist on type blah. Whatever. So types.ts, export type auth provider interface, and let's start with taking all of our props like this and defining them. Yeah, it does seem to be mandatory because it literally did help a lot. So we're going to say children are a. Okay, how do we type children? React type children. React children composition patterns with TypeScript. Perfect. Because I have never done this before. So let's look at Martin Hochel's. Yes, candy cane prop types are now going to be useless because we're using props.children. Implementation is following, which renders our card. But what if the user... Okay, how do I write a type for this? Jesus. Okay, so children are a React node. React node. And I need to import the React node from React. Import React node from React. Okay, that seems fairly straightforward. Next is the navigate function. What is the navigate function? Let's see if Gatsby, because I know Gatsby uses a router, so we need a navigate function to just needs to be something that accepts a string. Use auth, let's see, navigate, how are we calling it? We're calling it with a string. So we need navigate to be something that accepts a string and returns a void, right? So path string and returns a void. I'm just gonna go, the bird is being, oh, there you are. How did you know I was gonna come find you? Kiwi, Kiwi, Kiwi. Stop. Here. Eat the Nutriberry. Spin. Okay, fine. You can just get it. He did not want to do a trick for me. Okay, so navigate is a function that returns a path that is a string and returns void. Thanks for all your help, Robin. Have fun with the rest of your day. Auth0 domain needs to be a string. Auth0 client ID also needs to be a string, and Auth0 params needs to be a key string that maps to a string, right? Auth0 params. Where are they? Auth0 params need to be. Yeah, I think they need to map to an any. That would make the most sense, I think. Actually, let's see. Does this have params? Auth params, perfect. Auth params, new. Where we auth, let's look at web auth. Constructor has auth options. Auth options. Oh, let me replace my battery. Nice. Well, good night, Robin. Thanks for all your help. I'm gonna replace the battery here. Okay. Oh, no more coconut water for me. Oh, did this crash? Camera live. There we go. I should now be back to a moving face. Yes. Perfect. And I would be using the whole trick that I learned with my face going big and small, but unfortunately I lost when I updated. Okay, so we have auth options. Perfect. So this can be all of the auth options. Oh yeah, when I updated to macOS Catalina, it stopped working. So I can no longer dynamically make my face go big or small. Cool. So we have Auth0 options. Wonderful. And all of this returns a React node, right? Right. Like that. Okay. So Auth Provider interface should be typed now. Navigate is a string to void. Domain is a string. Client ID is a string. And Auth0 params are auth options. Perfect. So params, we're gonna say that these are auth options as well. We can auth options. Can we import that from Auth0 like that? Yes, so that should work. So we're saying params are an auth options. Wonderful. And then we get Auth0, which is a web auth. Use reducer gets state, which is auth state. Oh, let's do it this way. So we want the state and the dispatch like that. So we're gonna say auth state and cc. Okay, I will figure out how to add Twitch links and YouTube links to my tweets in the future, because right now it's just tweeting it out automatically, so I'm not really doing much with that. And we have an auth dispatch like that, and it's saying both of these are undefined, so we're going to import them. Auth state and auth dispatch. Cool. Right, so now we know that state is an auth state, which means that auth reducer is a reducer that takes state and action. User expires at is a null, blah. Cool. And then for our context value and set context value, we should define these so that in the future it's going to be easier, right? Yes. Okay, we can remove prop types. We don't need those anymore. context provider, perm. Okay, so auth context, how can we type that? React TypeScript context. Let's see if we can write a type for TypeScript and React context. Cool. Create a context, provide a context, app context, consume context without default values, context props. Okay, so this is our context. We're going to say auth context interface, right? No. Actually, let's see. Here for our context value, we're going. This is right now. This is an any, but we don't want that to be an any. We want it to be a. How do we do this? We want that to be a context. Let's see. Let's have a auth context value, and that's going to be a type. Auth context value or auth context state. Let's say auth context state. Auth context state. Yes. So auth context state, auth context value. Let's call it an auth context state anyway. So auth context state, and we go to types and we say export const auth context state is a object that has all of these things. So it has state, which is a hybrid export type auth context state. State is the auth state. Dispatch is auth dispatch. Auth 0 is web auth. Callback domain is a string, and navigate is a path string that returns void. Right? Right. So now, where was I? Auth provider, context value. So context value and set context value is a method that gets let's call this an any for now. Okay, so now we know that state is an auth state, dispatch is a dispatch, web auth. Perfect. So all of that now magically works. Now here, set context value is an any, and then it gets stuff and state. Okay, so we need to say set context value is a, how do we type a use state? We're gonna say that this is just a function that gets context value auth context state and returns void, right? No? Context value any to any is not assignable to parameter of type auth context state. How do I... Does anyone know how to type the use state method? Bill Smith, how am I not a millionaire? I am not a millionaire because I do too many things for free. Let's see. React TypeScript use state. Use state with TypeScript. Use TypeScript. A complete guide to React hooks and nice. Use state. Come on, use state. React use state. Come on. Use state. Search work faster. Use state with TypeScript. Let me zoom this in so you can read it as well. Use state t. The official typing is the following. Set state action s or pref state s to s. Qua. So we know that we want the context state, and then we want a function from any to void. Will that work? Pref state any to void. Okay, that works. What if we say pref state auth context state to void, and then it gets confused. Argument of type context value. What if we here say auth context state like that? Whoa, this got very confused. Okay, wait. Let's see. So we're actually calling it context value. So here we can say context value as well. And it's still getting confused because it's returning stuff. Context value any to any is not assignable to parameter of type. Is missing the following properties from type auth context state. State dispatch auth0 callback domain navigate, because it doesn't know that they are already there. What if we say context value exclamation point? Context value as auth context state to blah. Will that work? Now it's complaining about, wait, context value as auth context state blah context value cannot find name context value. Okay, what if we do this then? So this is how I learn by inference without actually knowing what I'm doing. I just experiment a lot, as you can see right now. And yeah, let's see, why auth context state, will that work? So because I'm basically returning auth context state always. No, what's it complaining about? Argument of type context value context auth context state, which has state dispatch auth0, is not assignable to parameter of type auth context state. Type auth context state is missing the following properties. It's missing state dispatch auth0 callback domain and navigate. Hi Bert, I am a little lost right now. Okay, what if we leave this the way it is, the way it was here? Okay, and maybe I'm doing this part wrong. So if we say use state and we provide, we say auth context state like this, will that make it work? Oh, that does make it work. Okay, I was using, okay, so it doesn't have to be as hard as I made it, because here use reducer, let's see, use reducer, we can call it with, can we pass in the type react reducer iState and iAction? So we can say react use reducer as, we can do it like this, we can use the parameterized type things, react.reducer with auth state and auth dispatch. No, auth action. Dude, why are you auto-completing my shit? React.reducer auth state and auth action. God damn it, what are you doing here? I said auth state. Please, VS Code, stop messing with me. I know what I'm typing. Okay, so now if I do auth action here instead of auth dispatch, where are we? Auth action, that also just magically works. Okay. Right, so lesson that we learned today, do definitely use parameterized, whatever, however you want to pronounce that. You should use that because it makes your life a lot easier. And I apparently did not know enough about parameterizing types. What's this complaining about? Implicitly has an any type, but a better type may be inferred from usage. Okay. Yes, it might. What if I do this now? Can now I say that this is an auth context state? Oh yeah, I can. Nice. Perfect. Okay. So because I used auth context state correctly with the parameters for use state, I can now use it here and everything just magically works. That's awesome. What else can we do? So use state, set context value, use effect, dispatch, which is an any. Why is dispatch an any? Handle auth result, dispatch is an any, and all of that stuff. Because this dispatch is an any, and this state is an any. But it should get... What if we do this? Will that work? So that doesn't quite work. Because now it's saying that all of these things are just any's. So I'm gonna keep that like that. And let's actually still define it as auth state and auth dispatch, because I think that will make my life a little easier. No, maybe not. Okay, let's remove that then. Why is this now an any? That's not very useful. So it gets the reducer, which is correct. Then all of these things are correctly figured out, but it's saying that a bunch of things are any's. Which is then messing it up here, because it's saying that okay, handle auth result, error, and error is property error is missing, but it's saying that it's mandatory, even though it's not actually mandatory. So we're gonna say error is optional, and now this works, right? At least it should work. I think it works. Auth context is an any. So let's see, create context. How do we use create context? Create context needs to get a type, which is auth context state, like that, right? And now this should be smart enough to know that auth context is a auth context state. It isn't smart enough, but what if we do it like right? No, it's not going to be smart enough, but it should be smart enough to know here that the context value is whatever. Okay, so I'm not sure if this was actually helpful, but let's see, git status, git commit -a -m, typings for Auth Provider. Okay, now let's see if this is going to build. Yarn build. So if we manage to run microbundle, then everything works and should be fine. Argument for JSX must be preserved, React Native or React. But minus JSX is not set. So let's go into package.json, React. So let's say that this is just React then. Okay, now let's do yarn build. Thank you, Bill Smith. I appreciate that you like my blog. What? Auth0 types auth0.js index has no default export. At line 3. Oh, right. Use auth. No, where is it? Auth Provider TSX. So auth0 import like that from auth0 -js. And now we're gonna have a bunch of problems with building this stuff. Yay. I could not find declaration model for React. Okay. Yarn add --dev at types/react. Let's see. What is the official typing? Hey, we're getting now, as my dev modules, we're getting React. Could not find declaration module for module React. If the React package actually exposes it, blah. So I imported the types, which means things should now work a little better, I hope. Let's try restarting VS Code just to make sure that it reloads stuff. Let's see, Auth Provider. Wonderful. So for some reason, I don't think it's smart enough to figure this stuff out. Although it would be great if... Oh, now it does. Oh, cool. So now it's complaining. User is not assignable to parameter. Auth result is missing in type. Okay, because auth state doesn't actually need auth result. So we go into types and we say auth, we find auth state and we say that auth result is optional. And now Auth Provider will stop complaining up here. But it also means that, yay, state and dispatch and stuff are now actually typed correctly, which is cool. And context value and set context value is typed. And here, wonderful. Okay, so all it took was actually installing React typings. Git status. Let's do yarn build again. I don't know what that cache CJS stuff is, but we'll... Yeah, I have no idea what that is. Can only be default imported using allow synthetic default imports flag. Okay. How do I add that? Microbundle allow synthetic configuration conflict with microbundle. Aha. Not finding Node.js modules. So where did he put that? tsconfig JSON, you're missing target node. I'm also having the same problem. It works if I do blah. Okay, do I have a tsconfig? I do not have a tsconfig JSON. So I don't know where to put this. Hey, I've published blah 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 blah. Okay, so maybe I need to put in a tsconfig. I'm gonna copy this guy's tsconfig because it seems useful. So actually tsconfig, yeah. Okay, so let's say touch tsconfig.json, or actually let's see, rm tsconfig json, and I'm gonna copy it from another project of mine. Freelancing, new documents, freelancing. I don't have it on this computer. Okay, so that's the downside of using a work computer, is that you sometimes miss things that you want to use. Tsconfig JSON. I'm gonna just copy this very gently because it works. And we say vim tsconfig.json pasta, and let's open it and see about those. Allow synthetic default module imports, target ESNext, module ESNext, strict true, JSX preserve, import helpers, module resolution, experimental declarators. Wonderful. Okay. Jest, do I have jest? We don't need jest. Okay. Did these people have webpack in their tsconfig? No, so I can take that away. I can take this away as well because I don't need it. Base URL, source map, allow synthetic. Okay, now let's see what happens if I run yarn build again. Yarn build. Okay, type null is not assignable to parameter of type auth context state. Perfect. So where am I doing that? In Auth Provider TSX, line 14. 14, we are saying auth context state, which is let's say or null, just because we already had that before, which is kind of silly. Okay, there was a squiggly line here. Why? Type of property dispatch is not compatible. Type dispatch auth action is not assignable to type auth dispatch. Okay. So what if we change that? So instead of, say, auth dispatch, we're going to say that this is a dispatch. What did we say? Come on. Auth provider. So it's dispatch auth action. Okay. Dispatch auth action. So we go in types, dispatch auth action, and we need to import this from React dispatch. Right? Right. Now, what is this? Argument of type string or undefined is not a type assignable to parameter. Right. Because user info takes access token as a string. So we're gonna say auth result has this potentially undefined. So we gotta say, or empty. And then here we have auth 0 callback, auth 0 user profile, and auth 0 error. Types of parameters error and error are incompatible. Type auth error is not assignable, right? Because this can be a null. Okay, and then handle auth result. Why is now everything? God damn it! I added tsconfig and now everything is yelling at me. Okay, I guess we gotta fix the types. Handle auth result. Promise boolean or undefined is not assignable to type promise boolean. Why would this ever be an undefined? So we return true, return false, else we just return false as well, because obviously it didn't succeed. So this is now going to be happy. What's the next thing that's complained about? Property state does not exist on auth context state. Of course it does. Auth context state. Yes. Property state definitely exists. Dispatch, auth 0, callback domain. Why is it complaining that? So auth context state, use context of auth context state, which makes sense. Jesus. Auth context state, where are you? Auth context state. But we totally did define those. What if instead of starting with null, we start with an actual okay, so now it's happy, but now it's not gonna be happy here where we're trying to define null. So let's not define null, let's define an empty state. User expires. Come on. Okay. Dispatch needs to be a... So this is where TypeScript gets really difficult, because with JavaScript you often just kind of hack things around and force them to work, but with TypeScript it requires you to actually, you know, do things correctly, which is annoying. What if we just don't provide an initial state? An argument for default value was not provided. Okay, so we need an argument for the default value. And let's see, what is the default state in auth reducer? Use reducer, we say this is the default state, so I'm gonna copy it here. Or let's just call it default state here, const default state. Default state. What did I close that? Command Shift T. No. Where am I? Auth Provider. Default state is that stuff. So we say default state, and we can use that down here as well. Default state. Perfect. Now the next one is a dispatch method, which is going to be just a an empty function. Then for WebAuth, why aren't we defining WebAuth up here? Because right. So for WebAuth auth 0, we actually can't do that. It needs to be null. Callback domain can be a default callback domain, so I'm just gonna copy pasta this, because we need to define this manually here. So, and then navigate is going to be a navigate takes a path string and goes to void, which should be fine. No, what is it complaining about? Property dispatch. Okay, what if we do it like this? Will that work? Okay, so that works. Now we just gotta figure out the WebAuth thing. how do we do this? Does it make sense to initialize two auth0 web auths? Like that. Expected one argument but got 0. Like that. And now it's gonna say that this is not, it's missing properties. Yay! But we don't know those properties yet, which is kind of silly. So we need at least auth0 to be nullable. So it's gonna start with null. We go into types and auth context state is web auth or null. And then where is that going to produce errors? So we have auth0 is blah. And then that is very loud. Hi Bernd, what are you destroying? Wow. Okay, so that's now happy with us, I think. And if we go into use auth, are there any squiggly lines? There are so many squiggly lines. So we're gonna say use auth. Type null is not assignable to type boolean. Is authenticate, types of property is authenticated are incompatible. Boolean or 0 or null is not assignable to type boolean. So where are we doing that? Is authenticated. Wait, what? Candy cane, yes, it seems that everybody rides motorcycles around here. Kiwi, what are you doing? Where is he? Kiwi. Oh, okay. You can play with that. Alright, so I'm gonna just say that, come on, where are we? So use auth is complaining that, first of all, because this can potentially be null, it's now complaining that object is possibly null. So we're going to say auth0 and auth0 authorize, and then auth0 and auth0 logout, even though we always know that those are defined. And here we say auth0 and auth0 parse hash. And now what is error can be a auth decoded hash or null. And error can also be null, right? No? Okay, I'm gonna hold off on that. Let's first no, I think the reason is that my side window that's facing the street is open because it's been really hot lately, so this lets more air flow through. Okay, let's figure out this use auth thing. Where was I? Use auth, blah blah blah. Types of property is authenticated are incompatible. Boolean or 0 or null is not assignable to type function to boolean. Okay, so is authenticated returns boolean or 0 or null. Return state expires at. Okay, now it should return just boolean. Perfect. I don't know why it could potentially return 0 before, but whatevs. Okay, is now use auth is still not happy. Type auth0 decoded hash or undefined is not assignable to type auth0 decoded hash, which is auth result. So auth result here can be potentially undefined, right? Auth result is state auth result, which we get from where? So here auth0 decoded hash auth result, right? That makes sense. So auth state, that means that handle auth result, use auth interface. So the use auth interface here, auth result or undefined, right? Because we know that that can potentially be undefined. So that now works. Now sub property sub does not exist on auth0 user profile, doesn't it? Where was I? Here we go. Auth0 user profile. Name, nickname, picture, email. It definitely does exist. So auth0 user profile is an interface that does have the sub property. Oh, but we're saying that this can be an empty string. So we're saying if state user is defined, but user can be just an empty object, then we return and so sub potentially doesn't exist, which means we can hack it like this. No? Okay, so no, that's not gonna work. So we gotta say and state.user.has key. Does that exist? JavaScript has key, has own property, prototype has. Actually, what if we do it like this? Okay, fine, whatever. Let's just say that sub must always exist. So we go into types, and here where we say auth0 profile, we say or sub string. So at least sub string must exist always. So that means now here it's going to complain because user doesn't have this. Actually, no. Will that work? Like that. Okay, so now it should be happy. Property sub does not exist on type. Where is it getting that? Types. So we have user auth interface. Let's see, auth0 user profile. Aha. So auth state also needs to have that sub string. Cool. And auth action. Perfect. So this should now work. Yay. Okay, so that's happy now. Use auth is now again unhappy. Types of property user ID are incompatible. Type string, null, or undefined is not assignable to type string or null. Okay, that's fair. So we are going to say user ID can be string, null, or undefined, which is fair. Okay, now let's figure out this thing. Saying argument of type error auth result promise void is not assignable to parameter of type auth0 decoded hash null and auth0 parse hash error. Error and error are incompatible. What? Type error or null. Will that make you happy? Property message is missing in auth0 parse hash error. Okay. And then we gotta import that. We did import that. What else is it complaining about? Type null is not assignable to type auth0 decoded hash. Right. So that can also be null. And now, because handle auth result is expecting an error that is undefined, so type null is not assignable to type auth. Okay, so we go back into types and we say handle auth result. So it has error or auth0 parse hash error, right? Or null, cool. And then auth result or null, auth result or null. We must allow that, because then handle auth result internally deals with all of those being actually defined. Cool. Now yarn build again, and this time I hope it works. I think we resolved all of the type errors. No, we have a syntax error. Oh, great. So there is a syntax error. Unexpected token on line 81. Come on. Command G, 81. No? Unexpected Auth Provider TSX, command G, 81. What? What are you complaining about? Like, okay. Well, we almost got this working, but I'm gonna have to stop now because I have some other stuff I need to take care of. I don't understand what the syntax error is. Does anyone have an idea why this doesn't work? JSX React. What if we say, come on, const provider equals auth context dot provider. That might help. Maybe it's just a JSX thing, so it doesn't know how to deal with that kind of JSX now that we have TypeScript enabled. That's possible. Nope. Unexpected token at line 82. Right, 82. No, come on. 82, and I have no idea where the problem is. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know why this isn't building, but we have git status, git add tsconfig.json, git status. Now, actually, what if we go into tsconfig? Let's see if tsc works. Can I compile this? Did you import React? That is a good question. Did I import React? I did import React. I have React imported and everything should work in theory. Maybe the problem is some like intermediary step with microbundler. And let's see first if TSC works. Like, can I, well, type null is not assignable to type, well, okay, so there's a lot of TypeScript errors still. Git status. RM, RF. Okay, so let's see. Why is Auth Provider JSX suddenly. Oh, okay, let's remove all of these guys because running TSC did weird things. So this is kind of tedious, but actually, do we have any other JS files? Oh, actually, I don't need to know because I can remove them. So we can say rm source *.js * git status. Cool. Git commit -a-m. Almost without type errors. Almost works to build. Almost got builds working again. Cool. Git push origin TypeScript. And now I'm gonna have to go because I'm doing an interview with Dave Cedia in 10 minutes, so I gotta clear my mind for that. So thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye.